Welcome back to Metropole Television. This is the last part of our conversation this morning. We are still on that key area, unemployment in the country. Now, the rate of unemployment in Kenya declined by 0.15% from 2015 to 2019, while the youth unemployment rate went from 7.4% to 7.24% in the same period. To encourage and elevate self-employment, and even during this pandemic times, we are joined by DOREEN AHIMBISIBWE, who is a manager at Microserve Consulting Limited Banking and Financial Services domain, as well as a development practitioner and trainer with over a decade's experience in microfinance and retail banking. DOREEN, I hope I did get that name right.
Yes, you did. You actually did perfectly pronounced it.
Fantastic. I'll keep on avoiding it because I really did practice on it. Now, the rate of unemployment, therefore, seems to be declining. But why are we still talking about youth unemployment in the country?
Okay, thank you so much. So first, I'll provide some bit of clarity. I'll be speaking generally African context. I'm currently based in Uganda. But by the nature of our work at MSC, we move all over Africa, different countries. So why is unemployment still low? Why is unemployment still very high? I think several reasons, several factors. One maybe would be the education system, the nature of our education system. Just all over Africa, it has been said over and over again that we go through school for years and we are only just reproducing what we've been taught. So we are not ready for the job market. So when the employers get potential employees, they are not impressed with the output. So probably the critical factor is the education system. However, we also have vocational and technical institutions all over Africa. But traditionally, all parents, I think even the guardians and parents will want their children to just go through university, the known formal education. They don't want to hear that my child dropped out after Form 3 and maybe went and did mechanics or bakery or something. So for example, I'll give an example of a friend of mine. She's an IT graduate. She holds a degree in IT, but she also has a shop in downtown Kampala where she sells curtains. And incidentally, the curtain shop is making her much more money than her former job, the IT job. But when she's with her mom, the mom told her, please, when you're introducing yourself to my friends, don't tell them about the curtain business. Just say that you are an IT professional, something like that. So what will her younger sisters think? Automatically, if you don't go to university, follow the right channel, then you're already a failure. Then again, for Africa, corruption. So maybe the governments would be investing resources in different businesses, in the industry to create employment. But if this money is being diverted for other things, self-gain, for, politics and the like, then there are no jobs. Then the high illiteracy rate. I think in East Africa, Kenya would have a slightly higher literacy level than in comparison to other countries. But in other countries of East Africa, and if you go to West Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, it's terrible that literacy levels are quite low. So it's a combination of factors. Maybe also our attitude now that we all are seeking for formal jobs. You don't want to be seen having a garden, but agriculture may be the way to go. In Uganda, we say the backbone of our economy is agriculture, but no one wants to be seen in the garden. So it's a combination of factors.
Pretty much. So I hear you say, and I want to ask you back at this now. When you look at East Africa especially, would you say that culture is one of those things that we have to change, therefore, for us to address these areas?
Yes, the culture, first even the education system, because it starts from there. If you need your parents are really proud if you go through primary school, secondary, get a degree, and that's the system. Everywhere you go, you first introduce yourself. I have a degree and whatever. So it will have to start from the education system, which has impacted on the thoughts, our thought pattern and our culture. Because even as our parents are working so hard to pay school fees for children to go to school, to go through the formal system and not for these other options. The vocations are looked at as failures. Those who fail to get the grades to go to university are the ones who have gone to technical. So it's deep. It has taken so many years. But I know different countries are trying to work on improving the education curriculum step by introducing courses like entrepreneurship, things of the sort. But it's still a big challenge that will not need years to sort out.
Pretty much. Now, for Doreen, let's talk about at Microsoft Consulting Limited. What more do you do, therefore, to promote and implement financial inclusion in the various sectors of the economy that the youth and everyone in general can sort of engage in?
So Microsoft is a consulting firm that has been around for 20 plus years. And we have done a lot of work on financial inclusion, economic inclusion, social inclusion. So specifically for financial inclusion, we do a variety of things. We support different stakeholders who include governments, financial service providers, telecoms, NGOs. For example, for a financial service provider, what would we do? We would go in there and maybe help with product development. We make sure that the products they are designing are going to be attractive and they'll have people signing up for them. That means you're promoting financial inclusion. We support them like we've supported different countries on agency banking. In Kenya, agency banking is already big, but in Uganda, it was pretty new. So if we say supported the bank set up agency banking, meaning those who could who were previously unable to come into the bank branches are now able to transact in their community. So for the banks, that's what we do. We've even supported governments to design financial literacy strategies. So yes, people need to be taught and educated on the importance of being financially included. So we also support governments in designing literacy strategies. For the telecoms, we're also supporting them to understand their customer journey, or how can they get more people sign up for services like mobile money, which makes them financially included, mobile banking. Yeah, so it's a combination of things. And then we have different, what I'd call practice groups, so domains at Microsoft, like the private sector development, which focuses on agriculture. So how do we also include the financially include the smallholder farmers? We have digital financial services, the domain. How do we, digitize, especially now with Corona and COVID? Whoever was resistant to digital is now seeing the relevance of it. We have banking and financial services that I am working with, where we work with the financial institutions to make sure that they try to get the unbanked on board.
Pretty much. Doreen, I just want to get back because I have a special focus on youth now. I mean, from when you sit in that, you will actually tell me what the African youth needs when we're talking about financial inclusion. Could you talk to me from a Microsoft perspective? When you're talking about financially including the youth, what are we talking about, and what specific features about these solutions must be there for us to say, yes, now we have solutions for the youth?
Okay, yeah. So financially including the youth, we know that Africa has the youngest population globally. I think on average, the average age is 19.5 years. And so we need to get these people on board. Why? So recently we did a project in one of the banks where the youth felt like they're excluded. The whole population, the bank customer segment was 40 years and above. So we wanted to find out why, and yet we have a huge population of the youth that need financial services. So we went out and talked to the youth and said, so what's your problem? Why aren't you joining the formal institutions? And they're like, one, they ask us for collateral. For me to get a loan at the bank, they're going to ask me for a car logbook or a land title, things of the sort. They are going to ask for a list of requirements. They want businesses that have been in existence for 2 and above years, yet we are just startups. So we went back to the bank and told them, you know what? You need to tweak your services a little better. Let's try to respond to this youth. One, there are issues, they lack collateral and insisting on collateral. How can we go about that? The youth are already organizing groups. So can we have them sign up for each other, guarantee each other as an option to collateral? Does that work for you? The issue of the business should have been in operation for 2 years. Can we at least say, let's graduate them, we start with small amounts, see how they repay back, grow them until to a point when they can even have their own collateral. So those are the kind of things we do. So we do a lot of market research. We listen to the youth and any other segment and their needs and try to customize and come back to the financial institution and say, please respond to these needs the way they have been presented. So that is how we are trying to financially include the youth at MSc.
Pretty much, but you've spoken to a lot of them. You've seen the way in which the youth operate across different countries in East Africa. Talk to me. Is there a difference, or we are all in the same train? We have the same challenges. We have the same opportunities. Compare these different countries that you've been to.
I think broadly, if we compare East Africa, I think the youth are generally facing the same challenges, but I would like to say they are not homogeneous, they're very different. For example, the youth who are doing agriculture are not going to have the same needs as the youth doing border business or a retail shop. But the issues are the same, like you being asked for experience, you want to go for a job, the employer will strictly say, I need like 8 years experience. So the youth are left out, and we see older people, like if you look at the government ministries, it's just people above 50 who are there. So the problems are the same across the board. Illiteracy stands out. Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, illiteracy is really high. So I think it's the problems are quite similar, but we don't have to design one specific solution for that meets all the needs. They are different. The youth are different. They are the educated, the illiterate. So each of them has to be handled basing on at the stage where they are.
All right. Now, everybody is talking about how there is no access to credit avenue or capital has been a bigger challenge now for the youth and smaller businesses in Africa or East Africa, you say therefore. And what therefore, Doreen, from what you said this morning, are the access credit avenues that are present, and how can they get into them to help invest in small-scale income generating activities? Talk to me about the general credit environment in East Africa. Is there a total lack, or there is plenty, but the youth aren't just aware that to the availability, or they pretty much don't fit in them?
Oh, okay, yes. So I would say largely there are not so many options, honestly. Because the top ones would be the financial service providers, the banks, whom have said that maybe a few are skeptical of serving the youth. However, some are going around that by having guarantee funds. For example, I'll give an example of projects we've run where a donor comes in and says, please serve the youth, and we shall cater for the first year, we shall pay off the transaction charges, just so that you start appreciating them. They also appreciate the banking sector, and then with time, they are part of your customer base. But yes, it's the financial services mostly at their disposal. Some are into circles, then the village savings groups. Others have no option but to go to the money lenders, and we know what's the problem with the money lenders, as the interest rates are crazy. So as MSc, we still have a lot. We think that the formal financial institution would be the best option. So we're still working so hard to try and get them on board to serve the youth. And we have big funders like MasterCard Foundation that are trying to also do a lot of research in this and then encourage the financial institutions come on board. So it's still a challenge. Definitely the youth are struggling to access credit. We have a few new solutions that have come on digital credit, but still that's not much money that you can use to invest in a business. So yes, it's still a challenge, but we'll get there slowly.
Talk to me therefore, as MSc internally. I know credit access is one of those your biggest areas when it comes to smaller businesses and giving financial solutions as well. What would you say, Doreen, is your biggest challenge in this financial access journey among the businesses in East Africa?
Okay, so first of all, MSc is basically a technical assistance provider. We do not give credit.
Yes.
We just support financial institutions to offer better solutions to this. But the biggest challenge, I would say, is rigidity or the low risk appetite. The financial institutions, the fear to serve certain segments. So that's why we have like the entire continent is more than half youth, but these are potential customers, but the banks are fearing to serve them. So as MSc, our focus is in telling these banks, working with them and telling them, you know what, these youth can be served. We just need to grow them. So we've started to see, they start with products like juniors account, grow with these people, start with junior account, then they graduate and get a job or whatever. you upgrade them, then eventually they're getting salary loans and things like that. But those are a few who have gone through the system. So it's still a challenge, definitely. At MSC, our role is doing research to convince the financial institutions that this is a viable segment you can go into. We've recently even published some materials. You probably visit our website and look at that, how we are advising institutions on serving the youth. So it's still work in progress.
Pretty much. Now, finally, as we therefore complete this conversation this morning, Doreen, you work in different environments. You're in Kenya, you're in Tanzania, you're in Uganda right now. Would you rate our government's response to financial access? Is there that recognition that smaller businesses, that youth especially, need this capital? They need to get access to the finances from this government. And when you look at these governments, how would you rate them in terms of our performance as East Africa?
I think the governments have tried, because even the ones that are not doing so well, like, for example, in Uganda, I would say there's a youth fund in place where the youth can go and access some loans to start up a business or invest into their business. Yes, they are small loans, but they are a starting point and they come collateral free. Yet the governments have put in place such funds for MSMEs, but of course the challenge again is in how are we managing these funds. It's also about corruption. If I don't know someone in the ministry that is giving out these funds, I may get left out. So they need to put in place transparent processes where the criteria is clear. Maybe youth in the rural area, this is a process for you to get the loans. But there are actually funds in place in different countries for the youth. But the process of accessing them, some are not transparent, and that has failed it. Actually, I think one of the banks in Uganda was given funds to give out to the youth, but the youth also took the money and refused to pay back, and they kept saying it's government money. So it's two-way. They need to be educated. Yes, we've given you interest-free loans, but you need to repay them. It's just not government money for wasting. Then the government also have to be clear on the process, the criteria for qualification.
Pretty much. DOREEN AHIMBISIBWE, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning at Metropole TV.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you too.
Fantastic, and that's exactly how we end the show. This is Business I Am, and you are watching our Sector Trends.